Okay, so yesterday in Arizona, there was a big memorial for Charlie Kirk. Hundreds of thousands of people. A friend of mine was actually at it, and it was an amazing story. And I was listening to a review or a breakdown of it, coming back from in the car, listening to Breaking Points, a podcast that I really like. I like the various. There's a slew of hosts, but I love this bunch. They're more moderate than I, but that's useful. That's good for me. But so they had some really toxic stuff being said by Stephen Miller, of course. I don't know if these people can activate for real. If they do, the country's in real trouble. But it looks like they're going to start purging even more than they are at the moment. People, possibly like me, I don't know. Nobody listens to me, so it doesn't matter. I'm powerless. But there's the nasty stuff. And then there was Erica Kirk, the wife. And she said this thing that she forgave the shooter. And I listened to that, and I heard the presenters on Breaking Points just say, oh my God, how brave and how courageous and all that. And I absolutely agree. My problem is she did it because she said she was commanded to by her Lord. And that's all the difference. That is all the difference. And I can tell. I don't know. If a loved one of mine was murdered, I bet you hopefully it never happen. But if it did happen, I would state that I would forgive the shooter also, the killer also, because of various things that have arisen in me over my lifetime. Not because I read it in a book or I believe that I would do it because a young Jewish chap 2,000 years ago said, forgive them, Lord, they know not what they do. I think that man, I'm pretty sure he existed, somebody, even if he was created by an imagination, is an extraordinary human being. There's not many, but there's enough of them throughout our history, in our imaginations anyway. But I have a real problem with this morality by command. The Bible is full of versions on commandments. Jesus commands me to do this. Jesus commands me to be good to my neighbor. He commands, and therein lies an absolute for me. Charlie Kirk objected to Dr. King, even though they were, obviously inspired by a similar belief system, because Dr. King cheated on his wife. And that was it. And therefore, Dr. King's ministry was cached, and he was false, according to Charlie Kirk. And that's because Charlie's operating from a book of rules, and he himself has not strayed, did not stray, as far as we know. He was young yet. And I have to say, for instance, for myself, old man that I am, with my history of relationships, I just was lucky. 99.9% of the time in my relationships, I didn't desire anybody else. It was the nature of my way of going about all that stuff. It's part of, I guess, it's the way that I loved, and the way that I desired was very specific. So I was not a cheater. Women often thought I was cheating on them, but if I did, it was once or twice in my whole life. but I happened. So I'm not being faithful to my wife because I'm obeying some code, and that's my problem with people whose relationship to religion is like that. That just as they will look at me and imagine, they must imagine that because I'm not obedient to a book of morals, I must be a barbarian, which is, from their point of view, is true. I would say the same thing, that I feel I'm not having a discourse with somebody who's actually present. I don't believe them. If Erica had been something else, if she had been an atheist, she had been or something else, and she said that, I would have thought, no, that really is something. But because it's part of her adopted belief system from a bunch of books written by men thousands of years ago, old men by and large, I saw this thing, Rory Stewart getting on Gary Stevenson's case, and he says Gary Stevenson is this young economist chap in Britain who's a trader and is very critical of the British system and capitalism and the taxes. And Rory Stewart says, well, it might be because, you've got this class anger and you're confused by your whatever it is. And I'm watching this and I'm going, you have no concept that you might be confused by your class anger. It's a blind spot. So Catherine Liu, another mentor, I'm a great fan of hers. She says this thing about how it's a shame that our culture disdains intellectuals and doesn't, And I've been around that bush, and I have to say to intellectuals, clean up your language, learn how to speak. That's one thing. And the other thing is, Catherine, when you call a car mechanic or a tree surgeon, or you need your roof fixed, and they show up with the bill, do you trust them? And I say that the root of this, A, is you've got a class mistrust of working people. You might not. I don't know you. But that happens a lot. And then the other part of that is that somebody who fixes my car, I think is a genius. They are. When I get my car fixed, rarely, thank God, but when I go and get it fixed, those guys to me are geniuses. They do something that I don't do. It reminds me of this great thing that Roy Casagrande said the other day. He says, this notion, again, it's a religious notion, I tolerate. I'm a very tolerant person. And he says, oh, stop it. Why don't you say to the Muslim guy, wow, look, your thing is I really celebrate that. You don't have to believe it. Just celebrate it. You know what I mean? It's just like, don't be passing this stuff, the rest of the world, through your own judgment system. Or modify your judgment system to enjoy things more. I mean, I'm conditioned. I was brought up European, as you can probably tell. And I've been told all my life, the classics, classical music and Shakespeare and all that sort of stuff. And I've done rather a lot of Shakespeare, and I love him, but not the way they do. He's better than what they think he is. And I've been told, Brahms and all this sort of stuff. And I have discovered relatively recently that the music that really sends me, really intoxicates me, apart from African high life, is the ragas of the villages of North India. I was exposed to some of that recently, and I thought, this is it. This is it. I'm not rejecting the other stuff. I'm just saying, this is it. So yeah, blind spots.